All right, let's talk a little bit about credit scores and how unnecessary they're going to be if we move into a CBDC and into universal basic income. If the government is the one that pays us some basic income, and the government is the one that decides when we pay our bills and how we pay our bills, then a credit score as we know it might not be very necessary pretty soon. After all, what is the point of a credit score? It's to see how creditworthy we're going to be in the future and how creditworthy we are in the present, but it's based on how we performed in the past. And there are other indicators as well, but really the question is, are we willing and are we able to pay our debts, to meet our financial obligations? Well, when the government takes a lot of that off of your plate with a CBDC and UBI, I think they're going to offer to basically reset a lot of credit scores for those who enter the system, because the game is different now. And the determination of how we're going to pay, whether we're willing to pay, whether we're able to pay our obligations, our debts, is going to change. And the government is going to take over a lot of that responsibility. I think all of us will have the opportunity to reset our credit scores and move over to a different scoring system. Now, here's something that's on my mind about that, and that is the introduction of a social credit score. You've heard all about that. You know what that is. For those of you who haven't heard about it, it's like having a normal credit score, only it's social. It's based on how you act in the world in a way that is not necessarily financial. So in the future, if the government is making sure that we pay our bills, as long as there's money in our accounts to pay it, and they can even control what we spend our money on, and if we are unable to pay our bills, they can either put more money in, or they can limit what we can spend our income on, they can deduct it directly, just all these different techniques. If they're handling that part of it, then what will be the greatest determiners as far as things that we are personally and directly in control of that will determine whether or not we will meet future financial obligations? Now, keep in mind, we're still going to have to work. We will still have jobs for the most part. And so part of our credit worthiness will be based on our financial ability as it was in the past, but not solely. So there probably will be a new system that comes online. Well, I think they'll make a case for our social activity. They'll say, if this person has bought into the system, if this person supports the current system as it is, then they are more likely to be able to keep a job. They are more likely to be willing to pay their debts. They are less likely to do something vindictive in order to hurt the system. So the social credit score, that's how that becomes part of the system. The way that it's integrated into UBI, to CBDC, and it's going to be part of the contract that we sign, most likely. These are my theories here. It's going to be part of the contract that we sign, is an agreement to move over to a hybrid of a financial and social credit score, so that they can make sure that we are socially acting in ways that are indicators of us being willing and able to be financially secure and worthy of the best credit scores and the most debt and the best rates. All right, let's talk about racism and credit. There are already people making the case that our credit system is racist. And anyone can make any case they want for anything. So it's not strange that someone would be making a case for that. And there's probably some information, some statistics that support that. Do I believe in that? Not necessarily, but I don't know. I haven't really looked into it, so I'm just agnostic about that issue. But it doesn't really matter what the truth is. What matters is what they can convince people to believe, and they can be very convincing about pretty much anything. If they can make a case that our current credit scoring system is racist, that it is sexist, that it is any kind of ist, they will have a better chance of scaring those who feel oppressed by the current system into the new system. And they won't just stop there. Because remember, during the George Floyd situation, something came into public view, and that's the idea that it's not enough to not be racist, you have to be anti-racist. So if you are not actively working against racism, as the people in charge of what racism is apparently, as far as what they determine, then you are racist. You are by default racist if you are not acting in what is considered an anti-racist way and actively helping to fix the system. So what does that mean for abandoning the old system and moving over to the new one? For those of us who have good credit scores, who are doing well in the current system, who are acting responsibly according to what the system says is responsible. Well, what that says is that it's not enough for you to opt out of making a decision. It's not enough for you to stay in the old system just because that system is serving you. Of course it's serving you, but it's not serving those who are being oppressed by it. So, if you want to do your part, and you want to be anti-racist, not just non-racist, if you want to be anti-sexist, not just non-sexist, then you have an obligation to join your oppressed brothers and sisters in the new system, a system with a larger degree of equality. And yes, you will suffer maybe for that, but it's for the benefit of society as a whole and for your oppressed brothers and sisters. So I do believe the race card and the IST card, IST card, are going to be played in order to move people over into the new system. And I think that they'll do a pretty good job of playing it. And I don't think it's just going to be played against credit scores. I think it's going to be played probably against large banks, against financial institutions. And it's not that necessarily the federal government is going to be the one saying these things. They'll have corporations and mouthpieces and public figures being the ones making these suggestions and saying these things. And the federal government will just happen to be there with the solution that we need. But, of course, it will be a trap, and those who need it the most will suffer the most from it. So, just want to say that again. Those who need this system to change the most will suffer the most from the new system. They will think it will be their salvation. It will not. It will be just a greater degree of imprisonment.